Welcome to the Stop Over Drinking and Start Living podcast, where high-achieving, goal-oriented rebel women come to learn how to live a vibrant and fulfilling life without requiring alcohol to get through it. No labels, no judgments, no saying you'll never drink again. Just real proven methods to help you stop rebelling against yourself with alcohol so you can drink less and do more. I'm your host, Angela Mascenik. Let's dig in. Welcome to episode 300, Reflections on 300 Episodes, your key takeaways to help change your relationship with alcohol. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast. 300 freaking episodes. We can't believe it. I'm actually sitting here with Coach Steph.
Hello, everyone. I can't say hello. That steals Angela's thunder.
I'm actually in Coach Steph's apartment in New York City, up here for a couple days of fun and coaching and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And it just happens to be the 300th episode. And I was thinking about, I'm like, who has been here for this entire journey? And there she is, Coach Steph.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's been this long.
I know. So it'll be 5 years in January. So I started the Stop Over Drinking and Start Living podcast in January of 2019. And that's when Coach Steph joined my original small group coaching program called Stop Over Drinking and Start Living. And she's been with me ever since.
It's funny. I was just reflecting on when you were doing the What is Fun episode, and it was during COVID, and I was in the grocery store, and I remember getting a text from you that said, "What is fun about not drinking?"
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like in the grocery store, like answering you all these questions.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
Wow.
like, oh, reading my book at night and remembering it the next morning.
Yes.
And I just remember that just popped into my brain right now when you just said that.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing. That's a really good episode.
That is a really good episode.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
Because you got some great,
I got
feedback.
some great input. She's been here. She's been influencing and giving me great ideas from the client perspective as the person who has changed their relationship with alcohol. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were just kind of reflecting and asking each other some questions on like themes that we've seen over this time, themes like coaching themes that we see with our clients, the benefits of dedicating yourself to something for 5 freaking years, and just all sorts of fun things.
Yeah, the benefits of doing something for 5 years has just got me thinking that, my life, and a lot of you have listened to the different podcasts with me or coach with me, but the way my life has changed in the last 5 years is just absolutely insane. And it's been ups and downs along the way, and there's been failures and successes and setbacks and big shit with my kids and my family and stuff. And it just sticking with it has just, I'm like in a totally different place than I thought I would be right now. From the time I started coaching with Angela to now, it's like my life has just completely turned around. And there's bad things and there's good things, but I know how to handle the bad things more than I did before, for sure.
Yeah, and I think you know how to create the good things that you want more, right?
This is true.
You have more personal empowerment over what happens in your life instead of just letting things happen and this is the way things are.
Yeah, and advocating for myself, or just taking care of me, not putting others ahead of me all the time, just taking care of me has just been huge. Going on retreats and, making sure I have the time to go to the gym or go for a walk. And, it's just like learning that it's okay, and not just okay, that it's necessary for me to put myself first. It's just like, as a mother and a wife, that was very, very eye-opening to me.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned when we were talking about, I don't know if this is the regular word that I use, but the martyrdom.
Yes.
The martyr of the household is like, I'm the only one that can do it all. And then we feel all this resentment and anger and frustration and rage towards, people in our lives that we're doing things for. And working on that has been huge.
Oh, huge. I mean, listen, I I have few regrets. I handled things the way I handled things because I knew what I knew and didn't know what I didn't know. But just reflecting back, just like things like simple things like putting the boys to bed at night, right? Like I've been with them all day and I don't want to put them to bed because I wanted to get to my wine. And Greg would go to do it and he wouldn't do it right. And then I'd get so mad. And I'd be like, don't rile them up right before bed. I just got them settled, blah, blah, blah. And I was talking to Nick about this when I was visiting him. And one of his absolute favorite memories of when Greg would come home, he'd go upstairs and they'd be getting ready for bed. And he would sit on our floor in our bedroom with a big, gigantic pillow that we had on our bed. And the boys would go from their bedroom across the house running full speed into him and boof right off of the pillow, right? And eventually somebody got hurt or somebody got kicked in the nuts or something like that. But Nick was like, that was the best. Like, we love that so much. And I just, told Greg about it the other day and it made him really happy. And it's like, but there were times when they would do that and I would get mad about it because he wasn't putting them to bed the way that I would put them to bed. Right. So I wanted him to help me, but I wanted him to help me my way,
Right, right, yeah.
And learning, to let go of that martyrdom, and he can do things differently and it's okay. And I can ask him to do things and that's okay. And just learning that, it's not all on me. And that was all just learned behavior, that it was all on me.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I think it's, our society pressures and our own thoughts about motherhood and how it should be. And all that stuff is just extra excessive thoughts in our head that don't help. I think one of the biggest struggles that has been common theme, talk about common themes, through this whole time I've been, working on myself and coaching other people, even before this podcast started, is, God, I just lost my train of thought. I think it's that nighttime routine.
Yeah.
It's at the end of day stress that 100%. Women have, whether you have kids or not. Like, that transitional time from working, or if you're working in the home or raising kids or whatever it is, until that time after work or whatever it is, until dinner and until you go to bed, is the hardest time of the day for so many women. Like, that is 100% the most common theme. And when they try to change their behavior at that time of the day, with a mix of transitioning from work, no matter what the work is, to end of day stuff, making dinner, cleaning up, is really challenging. And it will be, I think that'll always be a challenge.
Yeah.
And learning how to be with that transition without drinking is big. And once you change your drinking, you're left with all of those feelings that you recognize that you've been numbing with, right? The resentment, the anger, the frustration, dealing with other people's feelings in the house at that time when everybody's hungry and
also
tired.
Feeling the guilt because you're not like June Cleaver and
Exactly.
I want to be making dinner for my family every night. I want to be doing this. Like you're like, what the fuck is wrong with me as a mother that I don't want to be doing these things?
Yeah.
So you have that on top of it.
Yeah. And just the other day in one of the Facebook groups, somebody said, I really just want to feel like I do in the morning. I'm all gung-ho and excited and full of energy. And how can I carry that feeling in through the rest of the day into the evening? Because I throw out my plans at the end of the day when the kids come home and I have to cook dinner. It's like, listen, you can't just have one feeling all day. It's normal to have these feelings at the end of the day. The first step is learning how to be with them, recognize what's going on, and then we can work on boundaries or letting go of all of your crazy rules about how things need to be homemade or prepared or cleaned up perfectly. And everybody needs to march in order to, your perfect idea of how things should be.
I remember one of the first coaching calls. I remember you telling somebody, you don't have to cook dinner for your children every night. And their look on their face was like, what do you mean I don't have to cook dinner? And you're like, yeah, I can eat cereal every night. if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. And if you do it, then realize you're making the choice to do it. Mm-hmm. And it's not always going to be, you're not always going to be happy about it, but just recognizing that you're doing it because you want your kids to have a healthy meal or whatever is different than feeling like this is all on me all the time. And as their mother, I'm supposed to love doing this.
Yeah. No, I think that's a huge, like, revelation. Is like, you don't have to love it. You might choose to do it, but you don't have to enjoy it.
Right. And it's okay if you're not enjoying
Right,
it.
right. But dissecting all of that stuff and like unraveling that kind of stuff at the end of the day in your belief systems and your feelings and your rules that you have for yourself and for other people is so important. And that is something that's always going to be the work. You know, it's I have these conversations with people on a regular basis, and helping them navigate that and unraveling that is huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's mind-blowing every
Yeah.
time I think about it.
Yep. Yep.
And life-changing.
Yes. What else? What other themes do we have we seen over these years?
Adult children.
Adult children. Oh my gosh. You would not believe how much coaching that these adult children require from us. Like, you know, the problems that mothers and parents face with launching their adult children into the world.
And it's like your kids are small and you're like, oh, I can't wait until they're older and then I can talk to them as adults and blah, blah, blah. And they move out and stuff. And you know what? Unless you decide to cut ties from your kids, you're forever a mother. Forever a mother. And you're forever going to be worried about their health and their happiness and stuff like that. But man, letting them make their own choices and make their own mistakes is really, really hard sometimes.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And Angela has coached me many, many, many times about my adult children. It's been a subject before they were adults. And it's just constantly recognizing how I'm feeling and getting the coaching. And instead of numbing and trying to put my head in the sand like an ostrich and running from it or numbing from it, it's like, okay, this stuff is here whether I drink or not. And me learning how to deal with it in a way that is healthy for me has been huge.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think a common theme is like we have this idea of how things should be. And this is a very common theme through all of the things, right? We think people should behave in a certain way, whether it's our children, our spouses, our coworkers, ourselves. We think we should do things in a certain way. And when that doesn't happen, as it doesn't with children on a daily basis, it causes a lot of pain and suffering, unnecessary pain and suffering. And so what we help people do on this is learning how to accept who their children are, what the children are doing. Doesn't mean that you have to roll over and not have boundaries and like try to teach them things.
Absolutely.
It just means finding a little bit more peace within yourself around what is actually happening versus the pain and suffering that we can have when we fight with what is actually happening and have hopes and dreams that don't come true.
Yeah, I just think back to many of the coaching where, they dropped out of school and they're doing different things and, friends, children that they grew up with graduating college and, getting quote unquote real jobs and stuff. And I just remember being like embarrassed by the fact that they weren't doing things the way that they were quote unquote supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And I remember you telling me many times like it's bothering you because you had an expectation, as the rest of the world did, that they would go to a 4-year college and come out and get a job and do things the normal way, and they're not doing that. And it's okay, that they're making their own paths. And it really does seem, I know people would disagree with this, but I really feel like that's the way the trend is going these days with these young people. It's not, they don't really want to go to a 4-year college and then come out and work and whatnot. They're being more creative, I think, mm-hmm. with what they want to do. They're challenging the boundaries. They're mm-hmm. challenging the norms.
Yep.
And yeah, it can be super uncomfortable because I want my kids to be able to support themselves and whatnot. But do I want them to be in a job that they're miserable in for the rest of their lives? No, absolutely not.
Yeah. It's a big pain point, but I don't think that's ever going to go away either. It's like
No.
helping people parent but more better that makes them feel better. It's not about the kids really. Like we're not giving parenting advice to help your kids.
Right.
We're coaching to help you feel better about what's happening in your life so that you drink less alcohol or you don't do self-sabotaging things or you don't spin out and overthink and ruminate and cause more problems like a rift in a relationship or being overbearing or too controlling. Like that's what happens when we attach ourselves, when we have these terrible feelings of being scared about outcomes, especially around our kids. We attach ourselves to those terrible outcomes and then we become controlling
and badgering,
and then that pushes our kids away from us.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't help anybody. So we help you understand what's going on for yourself internally so that you can feel more peaceful, and ideally you can show up as a better parent and have a better relationship with whoever it is.
Yeah, I think it's the whole you're going to be uncomfortable either way thing. Like you can be uncomfortable with what your kids are doing but still take care of yourself. Like you're uncomfortable with them not going to school, for example, and you get all pissed off about it and you're badgering them and now they're ignoring you and being nasty or whatever. You're uncomfortable. Or you say, okay, this is the way things are going right now, and acceptance is just a huge thing, right? Accept that this is the way things are. You don't have to like it, and you can still take care of yourself, and you can still have a good relationship with your kids.
Yes. I remember too, like looking back when you were, dealing with transitions with your kids, like it would spin you out so much that you wouldn't do what you needed to do.
100%.
You wouldn't work out. You weren't doing your work.
I totally shut down. I would totally shut down, and just, you're right. I wouldn't.
You would just spin out, go on the internet, look at all the different options, and it would, it would really stop you, especially when they first moved out.
Oh, 100%.
You felt like you had to be there.
Yes.
And be on and responsive 100% of the time, and it was really hurting you.
It was really hurting me.
Yeah.
And the rumination. I mean, I would literally like feel like I was going to throw up every day because I didn't know what was going on or wasn't going the way I thought it should, and just trying to manipulate and control them from across the country the entire time. It just led me to not only not doing what was good for myself and feeling like sick all the time and drinking and whatnot, it also hurt my relationship with them. Because I mean, I remember saying, like, this is not the relationship I want to have with my son. I don't want to be mad at him every single time I talk to him because I'm trying to control what he's doing.
Yeah.
And just letting go of that. And yeah, there are still boundaries and there are things that we are working on that you're helping me work on with them and whatnot. But just accepting that this is the way things were at the time just really helped, and realizing that I can be uncomfortable and continue to do the things that were good for me. Yes. Like me not journaling or following my drink plan or getting coaching or whatever, that doesn't change the circumstance in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
It just makes it worse, truthfully.
Yeah. And the other thing we look at is like what hasn't changed with people around doing this work is when they fail. Right? So like a lot of times people come in and they're all gung-ho and they are successful and they're just motivated, naturally motivated because they're excited about doing this and they can see the benefits of doing this. And then, that natural motivation kind of wanes after a while, which is absolutely normal. And then they might have a failure and then they self-sabotage because they are so upset with these failures that they have. And that is something that we coach on regularly. I feel like we do a good job of creating a space where people can safely come in and talk about their failures. But getting good at failing is a key component to this.
Absolutely.
And it really differentiates people who end up being successful and those who don't. The people who have the highest chances of long-term success are the ones that don't quit after they have failures, and they take the time to evaluate what happened, what works, what doesn't work, what can I do differently next time, pen to paper, get coaching on it. No matter what, those are the people that have long-term success. The people that really struggle the most with a lot of stops and starts and feeling bad about where they are the people that don't do that work.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, the first couple years I was working with you, I was constantly putting my evaluations in the Facebook group because I was constantly failing,
Yeah.
And it's as we were talking about before, it's like we don't want people to go into this shame cycle because that doesn't help, but at the same point you have to face what you did. And
tell them how you explained it before. You said like there's a spectrum, or there's a
so there's like levels, right?
Yeah.
So like the bottom level is being, going into this shame spiral and just throwing your hands up in the air and making it mean that you're a horrible person and I'm not worth doing this work, blah blah blah. That's the bottom. And then the top is like, oh, tomorrow's another day. Oh, well, they tell me not to, beat myself up. Like that's the fluffy part of it, right? And you need to find like the middle ground where it's uncomfortable. You recognize that you failed, and don't make it mean you're a bad person. Don't make it mean that you suck at everything in the world, and just sit down with pen and paper, like Angela said, and evaluate what happened. And really think about it. Like, don't do this whole what worked, nothing.
Right.
I mean, that drives me nuts. It's like something worked. Even if it means you just put your drink plan on paper, that's something that you didn't do before you started coaching.
You listened to a podcast, or you actually had a plan, or you joined the program, or you said, I want to stop over drinking, or you're doing it right now. That works. I'm doing an evaluation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, our brain, as you've said many times, wants to go immediately to the things that we did wrong and beat ourselves up. Mm-hmm. And that just doesn't help anything. Using the failures as learning experiences is just so much more helpful than just saying I suck and throwing your hands up in the air.
Yeah.
Or being fluffy about it too, because then if you're being fluffy about it, then you're not doing the evaluation. Most likely you're not digging in and finding out what didn't work and what you could do differently next. You're kind of brushing over it.
I think that it can be a tricky balance. Like it's better than shaming yourself, for sure, but you want to there's a really good podcast episode, I don't remember, I think it was number 35, I just looked it up the other day. It's called Frustration as Fuel. You want to feel frustrated when you fail.
Yeah.
And use that feeling that you have to figure it out, because it just means that you're out of alignment with what you actually want to be doing. When you have those negative feelings, it just means you should pay attention to it and letting that fuel you to figure it out. And like, what can I do differently next time? What can I learn from this? Not beating yourself up, but also allowing yourself to notice that I don't like this, and actually doing something about it.
Yeah, that, it just kind of like, it reminded me of like when I go to the gym or whatnot, and like I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try to lift heavier this time, and then I fail, right? And I'm not gonna like storm out of the gym and say I'm never gonna go work out again because I tried to lift heavier and it didn't work. Like, I'm gonna go back in and I'm gonna start from where I was before, and I'm just gonna keep trying to progress. And just, having a failure and just being like, okay, that's it, can't do this, then it's just, it makes me sad when people think that.
Yeah.
Because it's okay to fail. It's part of the journey to fail. Mm-hmm. If you don't fail, I
feel like it's just waiting for you at some point.
Yeah. Like, I remember when my very first and only time I've ever gone skiing, I hated it. I remember at the end of the day, Greg was like, so how many times did you fall? And I said, I didn't fall once. And he's like, then you didn't really ski.
Oh,
and I was like, fuck. He's like, because then you didn't put your all into it. You weren't really trying to ski.
You were just kind of like being real careful.
Yeah, being real stiff and just like, I'm not going to fail.
Yeah.
And I got nothing out of it. Yes. I got absolutely nothing out of that experience.
Yep. We're doing Sober October right now. And I keep reinforcing, like, this isn't about just racking up 31 days of no alcohol, right? This is about becoming a different person in the process of discovery. And if you do win, evaluate that too. How could you handle that win differently next time? How could you handle this situation differently next time? It's just so much more than about the alcohol.
That was huge in my progress, is that doing the evaluations on the day that I did follow my plan.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems so easy to not do it. But, you know, again, getting the good stuff down on paper, having something, when I could read my handwriting, having something to look back on when you're struggling or in an urge or you're feeling like I can't do this, having something you can go back and look at and say, I've done this before.
Mm-hmm.
I do know how to do this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that is a huge bonus to do them when you have followed your plan as well.
Absolutely. It's a whole thing is an evaluation of your relationship with alcohol. And that has been a theme throughout this whole thing. You know, I pride myself in saying you get to evaluate your relationship with alcohol when you work with us, because that's truly what it's about. You, through that evaluation, you get to determine what is best for you and what is not. Coach Steph still drinks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't drink.
Mm-hmm.
We've both come to that conclusion on our own through our own work.
Absolutely.
In pretty much the same way that, you know, I just don't like drinking anymore. I had to go through my own journey to figure that out. And Coach Steph still has alcohol in her life.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something that no matter what you do, is really important for you to come to your own conclusion on things. You know what's best for you.
100%.
And learning how to tap into that knowing that you have within yourself is so powerful. It helps you navigate other situations. Is this relationship good for me? Is this job good for me? Is this thing that I'm doing on a regular basis good for me? And just constantly knowing that you can figure out these things on your own through this process is a huge skill.
It's huge. It really, if you allow it to, it really can roll over into every aspect of your life. Do the evaluations for interactions with people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for your job, for whatever. It just really can roll over into everything else in your life if you really dig in and do it.
Yeah.
And it's not always fun.
No.
You know, there's like with the motivation, right? There's times when, you know, I didn't want to do the evaluation, and there were times when I didn't. But
Mm-hmm.
I after, you know, learning that how good it was for me, I never let it get too long in between, because I knew that it helped so much, and it helped pull me back into, you know, what I know was the right thing for me to do.
Absolutely. Sometimes we don't feel like doing things, you know, like looking back over 5 years of podcasting, and it's been longer than that because I had another podcast before this one, and I had 52 episodes of that one. It was called Lessons on Self-Coaching. I started podcasting before I was even a coach.
It was
so
pretty
like,
good.
Like it was fun. And, you know, working through that, that was 6.5 years ago when I started podcasting. So when I think about the consistency that you give yourself, no matter what you're doing, and you show up for yourself every week, and you put something in there, and you put something out there, and you try new things, and you fail, like the growth that can happen when you look back over time is unbelievable.
Absolutely.
You know? I was freaking out when I started the podcast about, you know, my sound, and I used to work in advertising, so everything had to be perfect. And my ex-boss told me to make myself a little sound booth out of foam and cardboard, and I put all this effort into like making this thing set up, and I was just like, I was so focused on the quality of like the production that it was preventing me from getting the freaking content out there. And so finally I had to like throw it all away and be like, I just have to make this not perfect. And so like that was a huge lesson that I had to go through.
I can definitely see not being able to do something until it's just perfect.
Yeah.
Like that.
You have to be willing to just go do it, go try.
Absolutely.
And be willing to fail. I mean, you know, this podcast has definitely not been perfect. You know, there's episodes that don't get a lot of listens and I get negative feedback on. Does that make me think that I'm a terrible person? I should wrap up my podcast and end it? Absolutely not.
No.
You know, and there's weeks that I don't want to do a podcast. You know, and I get on the phone with Coach Steph. I'm like,
yeah.
Tell me to do the podcast. Tell me to sit down and do this. Like, sit down and do it. I'm like, okay. And like, you just do it, you know? You just like, you learn like how to show up for yourself when you're consistent like that.
Yeah.
And I think if you guys can do that consistently with your own work on your journey with alcohol, there's so many benefits to doing something consistently over time. Like, you just get better at it.
You get better at it. And no one's ever going to be perfect at
No,
anything.
no.
No one's ever going to be perfect at anything. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't just keep trying to do it.
Yeah.
And, you're going to learn, you're going to grow in some way just by trying.
Absolutely. You're going to learn what you like, what you don't like, with all the work and I've done. I mean, I've had so many different programs I've created.
Yeah.
Different podcast topics, different angles at coming on things, but you actually have to go out there and do something so that you can learn what your preferences are.
Yeah. And it can be scary,
Yeah.
It's scary to try something new. It's scary to do things differently. But when doing the same old isn't helping you, then, branch out and try something different.
Absolutely. And I think just the journey with your relationship with alcohol can be so fascinating, right? Like, even though it's scary and even though you might feel like, at least that's more interesting than what you're doing, right?
For sure.
At least it's like you're out there and you're living and you're going after something and you're doing something new and you can learn about yourself. Like, that is so much more fascinating than being stuck on the over drinking wagon night after night and hating yourself, and years pass when you haven't done anything different.
Absolutely.
That's a
huge.
big warning too. Like, there's been people that have been listening to this podcast for as long as it's been in existence and say, I'll do it next time, and I'll do it next time, and I'll join you when you're opening again for your launch, or I'll join you on the next retreat, and they never do. You guys, stop it.
Just try.
Like, if you hear yourself saying that, please stop saying that to yourself.
Yeah.
Please stop lying to yourself that you're going to do something differently, and just say, I'm not going to work on it. I'm not going to tell myself I want to change anymore. I'm just going to keep going the way it is, or actually do something about it already.
Just decide.
Yeah.
How many times have you told me, just decide? I'll be on the fence about something. I'll be like, just decide and then be okay with the decision. Yeah. Just stop being in limbo.
Yes.
And just decide which way you want to go. And you just keep going and you keep trying and you keep pushing, and your life can change so much.
It really can. I mean, I can't even believe that I'm sitting here right now.
I can't believe I'm sitting here right now.
I mean, seriously, like, it's weird, right?
It's so weird.
It's like, never in a million years would I think that, 5 years ago, this client that would come in, I had no idea who Coach Steph was. She wasn't even a coach.
No.
Come in, and then she would work for me and become a certified coach. And then, we like travel back and forth to each other's houses and go on adventures all over the freaking world. And it's crazy.
It's nuts. It really is. If someone had told me when I first signed up with you that 5 years later we'd be sitting in this apartment looking over New York City doing a podcast together, I would have been like, in our ball caps.
Exactly.
I would have been like, no fucking way. Like,
right.
I can't do that. Who am I to do that?
Right.
Right. And now it's like, yeah, I can do that. And do I get nervous? Absolutely, I get nervous. I get nervous every single time I do something new, but it doesn't keep me from doing it.
Today was a day of new things.
Today was a day of new things. Interesting new things.
We have been... So Coach Steph used to live right by this foot massage parlor. And for years, it's only been a couple of years, but every time, like, we should do that. Have you gone to the foot? And they're like, I'm going to go. And like, she would not go.
Listen, it's, there's what do they call those? Sandwich boards?
Yes, a sandwich
There's
board.
A sandwich board on the sidewalk. This place, the blinds are down. It's down 4 steps. The door is closed. It's a little rinky-dink thing, and it says $45, 60-minute foot massage. And for years, I walked by it. Have you gone in there? No. Have you gone in there? No. Just go in. If you don't like it, you can leave.
And then I would take her. She would come to Chapel Hill, and I would take her to my place. She's like, okay, I'm going to go. I'm going to go. And she never did.
No. Until today.
I had to force her to go.
I had Angela to protect me from the scary place.
I'm like, okay, this is the plan. We scheme a lot, and scheming is fun.
It is.
So I'm like, okay, we're gonna go. That's what we're doing. So we went into Central Park, and she had a wonderful coaching session.
Yes, I did.
Next to a tree and some purple flowers. It was amazing. And then I'm like, okay, we're gonna walk to the foot rub place, and I'm like, okay, this is the plan. So I'm like, we can just leave if it's gross or something. I'm like, this is a plan. I'll just pick up my phone and act like there's an emergency and we have to walk out. And she's like, okay, yeah, I like that idea.
And oh my God, as soon as we walked in, they're like swooping us to these chairs. They didn't even ask us what we wanted, but it was an amazing experience.
It was so good.
They really cared about our feet.
They did.
It was pretty awesome.
It was actually one of the best ones I've ever had.
Yeah, it was pretty nice. And I will be going back.
Yes.
By myself.
Yeah.
I'll be brave.
And then we had to, we wanted to get coffee afterwards, and Steph was like, Starbucks, or there's this new coffee place. I'm like, it's a day of trying new things.
Yep. And the coffee shop was adorable.
Oh my God. What was it called?
The something kook.
We'll link it up in the show notes.
Something kook. Yeah, I know it's kook.
Oh, the fancy kook.
Fancy kook.
Kook, the fancy kook. Adorable.
We ordered cozy. We ordered coffee, and they brought it over to us in real cups on a little platter with a little cookie
and a little shot of orange juice.
It was
amazing.
It was amazing. I definitely will be going back there.
Yeah. So, we're still trying new things.
Absolutely.
And we still have fears. And It's just fun to work through that shit.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep doing the same things, guys.
And if the foot rub place had been scary, we would have ran out of there, probably laughing our asses off, and had a good.
And at least we know now.
At least
right?
we know now. Yeah. Exactly. No, it was fun. It was a good day.
It was really fun. We have lots of stories, and that's the thing. Is when you do new things, you have new stories, you have new content for your life. That's way better than just doing the same old. Stretch yourselves.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Stretch yourselves in all ways.
Yes, all the ways. If you think you can't do it, you're wrong.
Absolutely. What's that saying? If you think you can't, you're right. Yep. If you think you can, you're right. Yep. Either way.
Yeah.
So it all depends on how you think about it.
Yep.
And listen, I've said it before and I'll say it again. If I can do this, anybody can do this.
Me too.
Because I thought I was going to be the only person Angela could not help.
Yeah.
And look at where I am now. The wonderful Coach Steph.
The wonderful Coach Steph. Yep. You can be like her too if you want to.
Absolutely.
All right. Any final thoughts, comments? 300 episodes.
Oy. That's crazy. That's a lot of episodes. And I mentioned to Angela before that I've seen humongous growth in her as a coach since I started working with her as well. And again, we can continue to grow in all ways. We just have to keep at it.
Yeah.
Just keep at it.
We're not supposed to just lock into one thing in our lives or one way of being in our lives, and that's just what happens for the rest of our lives. I mean, I was just scheming with Coach Steph this morning about new things for 2025 in the business.
Yeah.
Lots of fun, exciting things coming up that I'm ready to explore and try.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Life doesn't have to be stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you just keep putting yourself out there, then it can just continue. You can just continue to grow as a human being.
Yep.
No matter
how old you are.
No matter how old you are.
It's amazing. I'm marrying a client next year.
It's crazy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
70-plus-year-old client who quit drinking, amplified her business, found the love of her life, and I get to marry them next year. It's amazing.
Mind-blowing.
It's just so many opportunities are still waiting for y'all. You just don't even know. That's the exciting part, I think.
Oh, super exciting. Just,
It's like the unknown. Like, what's going to happen next year? I don't even know
And
yet.
It could be so amazing. And it will be so amazing.
Yeah. So fun. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Coach Steph.
Well, you're very welcome.
300 episodes. All right. So if you haven't left me a review yet, that's your assignment for today. Okay? So just open up iTunes on your phone. Go into the show, Stop Over Drinking and Start Living. You have to go into the show, not the episode. And then you scroll down to the bottom where it says leave a review. And first you tap the 5th star, so 5 stars. If you don't want to give me a 5-star review, you don't have to worry about it. But if you want to give me a 5-star review, tap that 5th star and then leave me a comment on how this podcast has helped you, how the coaching has helped you. It helps more people see the podcast. So that's how we're celebrating 300 episodes.
Woo!
All right, friends. We'll talk to y'all soon.
Bye.
Bye. I want you to check out AngelaMascenik.com/AliveAF. You know what it's like to have a desire to cut back on your drinking, right? You start to read books, listen to podcasts, try things, but you might not be able to yet put all the pieces and suggestions together in a way that actually makes sense and works for you. You might struggle with beating yourself up after an overdrink. You might get frustrated with yourself when you take 2 steps forward and then another 2 steps back, and get overwhelmed with what's right and wrong about your relationship with alcohol. Your friends tell you that you should be able to have just 1 drink, and it isn't a big deal. You might be white-knuckling through urges and resisting instead of peacefully processing them. And you might struggle with your identity as someone who has enjoyed having a lot of wine or alcohol in your life. It's around you all of the time. It's what you do and who you are. Well, after 5 years of successfully coaching hundreds of women through these struggles, I have created the Alive AF membership, where women like you can learn the basics on what it takes to cut back and reach your goals with alcohol, whether it is to just drink less or totally quit. And when you join, you will get the exact framework I used to change my own relationship with alcohol and still use today, that has led me to be alcohol-free for over 5 years. You're going to get access to my resources, videos, and worksheets that have been proven to change and reduce how much you drink. Every day you can ask questions, share your obstacles, and get coaching and direct support on the challenges you will face with love and no judgment. Also, you will get immediate access to workshops like uncovering your alcohol identity and changing it, how to say no to things that don't support your new identity or life or goals, aka boundaries. A workshop called Creating Emotional Agency, and another one, How to Manage Your Mind to Succeed at Your Goals, and more. Every month we have a brand new workshop. These workshops are filled with step-by-step prompts and instruction to help you create the exact relationship with alcohol that is best for you. My mission and vision for Alive AF is to be a hub of support and resources for women to come and learn how to do what is best for them and becoming more alive in the process. When you join, you're going to learn how to take care of yourself better, how to feel good and become more alive and go after the life that you really want. I want this membership to be affordable and an easy solution where you can get all the help you need in one simple place whenever you need it. So, no need to go read another book, find a new podcast, attend a free webinar, or go down the path of piecemealing it all together. Join Alive AF and have it all there in one place for you anytime you need it. So, go to angelamascenik.com/AliveAF, and enrollment is open right now. See you inside.